Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I stopped by Travis's place 2 weeks before Thanksgiving just to check in. No warning, no call. Just one of those spur-of-the-moment drop-ins I used to do when he was younger. He'd always said he liked them. That day? Not so much. Delia opened the door. She had that look she always wore around me, tight smile, eyes like daggers. She was lighting one of those overpriced candles she loves, something that smelled like cinnamon plastic and regret. "Oh, Dennis," she said, dragging my name like it offended her tongue. "Didn't know you were stopping by." "I won't stay long," I said. "Just came to see Travis for a minute." He was in the living room, hunched over his laptop like he wanted to crawl into it. I sat down across from him. Delia stayed standing, arms folded, like she didn't trust me not to rearrange her throw pillows the wrong way. "I was thinking," I said, "maybe we do Thanksgiving at my place this year. Haley'll be there, I'll cook the old bourbon-glazed turkey. Remember that one, Travis?" He looked up, and the second our eyes met, I knew something was off. His legs started bouncing. He rubbed his thumb against his ring like he was trying to wear it down. Then he said it. "Dad, we're doing Thanksgiving with Delia's parents this year. You're not invited." Just like that. Like he was telling me the weather forecast. I blinked. "Not invited?" Delia stepped in fast, like she couldn't wait to jump on the grenade with a smile. "It's nothing personal," she said. "It's just, my parents don't always feel super comfortable around you. We're trying to keep the atmosphere light." I looked around at the kitchen, the same one I'd gutted and remodeled myself. Cabinets I installed, counters I picked. The dining set sitting behind her? I bought that for their wedding gift. Hardwood floors? I helped lay those. This whole place had my fingerprints all over it. But suddenly, I was the one who didn't fit. "You know what?" I said, standing up slow. "Wish your parents a happy Thanksgiving from me." Delia gave a tight-lipped smile, like she just won a round of poker. Travis stood but didn't say a word. Not even a half-hearted, "Sorry, Dad." He just stared at the floor like he was watching his spine roll away under the couch. I didn't slam the door on the way out. I didn't say anything else. I got in my truck and drove home, windows down, no radio. Just the cold air in my face and the buzzing in my ears. Quick note, before listening, share in the comments which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. I couldn't stop replaying it. The way he wouldn't even look at me when he said it. Like I was some stray dog sniffing around their holiday plans. They disinvited me from my own damn family. Not even a real reason. Just the atmosphere. Like I was some toxin they needed to keep out of their little scented candle life. And Delia? That woman was born for country club shade. Every word from her mouth sounded like a complaint wrapped in a smile. She didn't even flinch, like this was the plan all along, and I'd just shown up too early to see it unfold. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the old turkey recipe Maria had written out years ago. Still had her handwriting on it. Grease-stained, folded 100 times, corners curling. I looked at it for a long minute, then folded it up and shoved it back in the drawer. No bourbon glaze this year, no seat at the table. Just me, a cold beer, and a long list of things I'd let slide for too long. I was still sitting at the kitchen table when I heard the front door creak open. Haley's voice followed right after. "Dad?" she called out. "In here," I said, not moving. She came in wearing her school hoodie, hair in a messy bun, and dropped her backpack by the fridge like she lived there full time. Lately, it felt like she almost did. She looked at me for a beat, eyes scanning my face, then raised an eyebrow. "What happened?" I didn't answer right away. Just slid the turkey recipe across the table. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. "They bailed on you?" I nodded once. That's all it took. Her jaw clenched. She pulled out the chair across from me and dropped into it like she was ready for a court case. "I swear to God, if she said one more slick thing about you," Haley started, then cut herself off. "What exactly did they say?" I told her everything. Delia's fake smile, Travis's awkward silence, the whole line about atmosphere. I tried to keep my voice even, but somewhere around, "You're not invited?" it cracked, just enough for Haley to notice. She looked furious. Not teenage, dramatic furious. Quiet, focused, ice-cold, furious. She didn't even blink. "I'm not going," she said flat out. "Screw that. I'll stay here with you." I shook my head. "You don't have to do that." She leaned forward. "I want to. They're out of their damn minds if they think I'm eating mashed potatoes with people who treat you like garbage." Before I could say anything else, my phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number, but I knew exactly who it was. I answered it. "Dennis! Hi!" Delia's voice came through syrupy and sharp at the same time. "I just heard from Travis. There's clearly been a misunderstanding about Thanksgiving." I kept my mouth shut. Let her talk. She went on like I was an employee who forgot to clock in. It wasn't meant to sound like an exclusion. We were just trying to manage expectations and keep things relaxed for everyone. You know how sensitive my parents can be. Haley narrowed her eyes when she saw my expression. She couldn't hear Delia's words, but she could read them all over my face. "Of course," Delia continued, "if you'd reacted differently, maybe we could have found a compromise. But you always take things so personally." I forced my voice calm. "I don't think I need to be lectured in my own kitchen." She laughed. "Dennis, come on. You always make it about you. This was just logistics." "Noted," I said, ready to hang up. But then she dropped it. "At least your wife knew how to stay quiet in certain spaces." The words hit like a slap. I didn't say a thing, just pressed end and set the phone down. Haley was halfway out of her chair already. "What did she just say?" I didn't answer. What the hell did she just say? "Enough," I said. "She crossed a line." Haley sat back down, hands clenched into fists, breathing hard through her nose. I stood up, walked to the cabinet above the fridge, and pulled down the green folder I hadn't touched in 5 years. It was thick, rubber band barely holding it shut. I dropped it on the table in front of me and peeled it open. Paper after paper. Transfer receipts, monthly auto draft confirmations, receipts from when I picked up new appliances, checks I wrote for repairs, for wedding costs, for hospital bills. Everything I ever helped them with, going back to when they first got the house. Haley didn't speak, just moved her chair closer and started reading over my shoulder. I did the math out loud, not even caring if it came out bitter. $3,050 every month for the mortgage. That's $36,600 a year, 5 years straight. She stared at me. "Add in the kitchen remodel," I said. "Down payment, flooring, all the extra help. I'm at $183, easy." "Jesus," she whispered. I kept flipping. Pages crinkled from old coffee spills, some printouts faded from years in the folder, but the numbers were all there. Every single time I picked up the slack. Every moment they said thank you with their mouths and talked trash behind my back when I walked out the door. "You paid for everything," she said. I didn't answer. I just kept stacking the pages into neat little piles, categorizing them like evidence in a trial I didn't know I was going to need. Haley reached out, placed her hand on the edge of one document. "Does Travis know?" I looked at her. "Doesn't matter anymore." She nodded, then leaned back in her chair. No tears, no dramatics. Just quiet, steady rage. We sat like that for a long time. Me sorting paperwork, her keeping me company. She didn't offer sympathy, and I didn't need it. She just stayed close, and that was enough. I was still at the table when the sun came up. The folder sat open, pages half sorted, a pen tucked behind my ear like I was prepping for an audit. I hadn't slept, didn't feel like I needed to. Around 7:30, I picked up the phone and called the bank. The woman who answered had that fake cheer customer service voice, chirpy and practiced. "How can I help you today?" "Yeah," I said. "I need to cancel an auto transfer. Monthly payment, $3,050, goes to a mortgage account under my son's name. It's coming out of my account, and I want it stopped. Immediately." She didn't argue, asked for the last 4 digits, verified some info, and said, "All right, Mr. Denton, it's done. You'll get a confirmation email shortly." That was it. 5 years of payments, Just a few strokes on her keyboard, and they were over. I hung up and sat there a minute, the phone still warm in my hand. Then I looked around my kitchen, like I was seeing it for the first time. The coffee maker was older than Haley. It had a chipped glass pot and only brewed if you smacked the side just right. The tile by the entryway had been cracked since Maria's funeral. I'd stepped around it every day for years, telling myself it wasn't important. I'd patched their drywall before I patched my own damn house. I got up and grabbed a trash bag. All those bank statements, stiff paper, printer ink that never faded, years of proof that I'd been their safety net, every one of them went into the bag. The folder, too. I didn't want to keep a single piece of it. That night, I lit a fire in the fireplace. No reason to wait. I sat down with a beer and started feeding the flames one sheet at a time. You'd be surprised how long paper takes to burn when it means something. The flames were low and steady, orange licking the edges of each page before curling it into ash. I watched the transfer confirmations crumple like receipts, watched the house payments turn into smoke. Around 5 o'clock, I heard the front door open. Haley walked in, tossing her backpack toward the couch. She kicked off her shoes and headed straight for the kitchen, but stopped cold when she saw me sitting there in the dark with the fire roaring. She came closer and looked down at the papers in the flames. "You okay?" I didn't look at her, just tossed in another document. No more paying for people who don't want me around. She didn't say anything at first, just walked over to the fridge, grabbed a cold beer and handed it to me. Then she sat down in the chair next to mine, kicked her legs up on the ottoman like it was her place to be, and stayed quiet. We sat like that for a while. No music, no TV, just the sound of paper turning into ash. Haley broke the silence first. "They're gonna notice." "I hope they do," I said. She smiled, but it wasn't happy. "Delia's gonna throw a damn tantrum." "Let her." "You think Travis even knows what you've been covering?" "I think he doesn't want to know. That's worse." She didn't argue, just pulled her knees up to her chest and leaned into the armrest. I threw in the last paper and watched the corners flare up. The light from the fire lit the side of her face orange, and for a second, I saw Maria in her. Same stare, same stubborn calm. "You're not fixing this," Haley said. "I'm not trying to." "Good." There was something sharp in her voice. Approval, maybe, or just relief. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a minute. "Go ahead." "Why'd you keep it going so long?" I took a sip of the beer. "Because when you love someone, you convince yourself you're helping them, even when you're just making them weaker." She nodded, like she'd already figured that out, but wanted to hear it from me. "I just don't want to turn into them," she said. "You won't." "How do you know?" "Because you're sitting here, not over there." She didn't reply, just reached out, grabbed a piece of kindling from the box, and poked at the ashes, like she was making sure they were really gone. I leaned back in my chair, the beer cold in my hand, the fire dying slow. "I'm done being a wallet with a heartbeat," I said. She didn't smile, but she looked proud. That mattered more. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Coffee brewed in the busted machine, making that same loud rattle it always did. I didn't fix it. I kind of liked the noise now. Felt earned. I looked around the house. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't new. But it was mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for it. No one was draining me today. No one was cashing checks off my guilt. I stood at the front window, watching the sun come up through the trees, and realized I hadn't felt this kind of calm since Maria died. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was close, and it was mine. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when the phone rang. I let it buzz 3 times before picking up. No surprise. It was Delia. "Dennis," she said, like we were old friends meeting for brunch, "I need a favor." The nerve in her voice was sharp and clipped, like she'd already decided I was going to say yes. I didn't say anything, just waited. My parents are flying in tomorrow afternoon. Spokane International, Delta Flight 4719. Can you be there at 2 o'clock to pick them up? I kept my tone flat. You forget what you said to me yesterday? She didn't miss a beat. Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. That was just heat of the moment. Everyone says things they don't mean. I let the silence hang. She hated that. Then she laughed, short and fake. You're really still upset about that? Dennis, you're not a rival. You're too weak to be one. That one landed. She didn't even flinch when she said it, like it was some casual truth she'd been waiting to throw in my face. I sat back in my chair, crossed my arms. Sure, I'll pick them up. She perked up immediately. Great. Gate C, baggage carousel 4. They'll probably have coats on, but bring an umbrella just in case. And maybe wear that navy button-down. The one you wore at our rehearsal dinner. Makes you look presentable. That was her word. Presentable. I jotted down the flight number and hung up before she could say anything else. Haley was sitting on the couch, textbook in her lap, earbuds in. I waved the notepad at her. She pulled one earbud out. What's that? Flight 4719. Arrives at 2 o'clock tomorrow. She raised her eyebrows. Don't tell me she asked you to go to the airport. She did. And you said yes? Sure did. She narrowed her eyes. You're not actually going. I shook my head. Not a chance. The next day, I had lunch around 1. Grilled cheese and a side of pickles. Simple. Haley came in while I was cleaning the skillet and said, Need a ride to the airport? I smiled. Nope. Got big plans. By 1:45, I was sitting on the back porch with a hot cup of tea, the crossword folded open on the patio table, pen in hand. It was sunny, 62 degrees and breezy. Not exactly a day for coats and umbrellas. At exactly 2 o'clock, I looked at my watch and grinned. Haley came out and flopped down beside me. She didn't ask anything. She already knew. They land yet? She asked, popping the tab on a ginger ale. Should be just touching down. She sipped, leaned back in her chair, and let out a content sigh. I hope they get cold waiting. I chuckled. Bet they're standing by that carousel with their little carry-ons and zero clue. Probably calling your phone every 10 seconds. I glanced over at it on the patio table. Volume turned off. Face down. Good, I said. Let it ring. By 2:30, I'd filled in most of the puzzle. Haley was halfway through a bag of chips. We didn't say much. It felt good, quiet, deserved. At 2:43, my phone buzzed again. Then again. Then again. Persistent, Haley said, rolling her eyes. Desperate, I corrected. By 3:15, it stopped buzzing. I think they got the hint, she said, tossing the empty can into the bin. You think? Or maybe they're trying to call Travis now. That thought made me laugh harder than I expected. At 4 o'clock, I made myself another cup of tea. Same ceramic mug I'd been using since Maria bought it back in 2008. It had a little chip on the handle. Haley joked it matched me now. By 4:30, she'd gone back inside to finish a project. I stayed outside, watching the sun start to dip behind the trees, the sky turning that soft gold that made everything feel slower. I thought about Catherine, standing at the curb, waving down a taxi or trying to get an Uber to work. I pictured Cody fuming in his blazer, barking at airport staff like they owed him something. I wondered if they'd found someone else to blame for their ride not showing up. Probably blamed me to the driver or the airport or the weather or God. Didn't matter. They were on their own now. At 5 o'clock, I went inside and started dinner. Just spaghetti and garlic bread, Haley's favorite. She came into the kitchen while I was stirring the sauce and said, So, what's the next move? No idea, I said, but that felt good. You looked calm, she said. Too calm. I smiled. That's the danger. They think I'm bluffing. They don't realize this is me done playing. She nodded, satisfied. Delia's gonna explode when they show up. She already has, probably. And Travis? He'll say he didn't know, like always. She grabbed 2 plates and started setting the table without being asked. That small thing, it hit me more than all the chaos. She saw me. She got it. She wasn't picking sides. She'd already picked. We ate in the living room with a rerun of Jeopardy playing in the background. No phones, no interruptions. Just a normal evening in a house that finally felt like it belonged to me again. After dinner, I stepped outside once more, just to feel the cold air. I breathed it in deep, let it fill my chest. No guilt, no calls to return, no apologies to hand out. They'd landed, but I'd already taken off. I was drying the last dish when the knock came. Not a normal knock either. 3 loud pounds like the door owed somebody money. I didn't flinch, just hung the towel on the oven handle and walked over. When I opened the door, there they were. Delia, standing dead center like she was the queen of something. Behind her, her parents, Cody red-faced and stiff, Catherine in a beige coat and pearls, her lips already curled like she smelled something rotting. Delia didn't say a word. She just stepped aside and let her father push past her. "Barbaric!" Cody snapped as he stormed inside without an invitation. "Absolutely barbaric, Dennis. You left us stranded like animals, 2 senior citizens standing outside a terminal like goddamn hitchhikers." "This is my house," I said, voice low but sharp. "You don't get to storm in here barking orders like it's yours." Cody turned on his heel, eyes wild. "I had to take a shuttle, Dennis. A shuttle. Do you know how humiliating that is?" Catherine stepped in behind him, heels clicking like she was entering a courtroom. "Actions have consequences, Dennis. I'd expect a man your age to understand that." I didn't respond. Just crossed my arms and looked at Delia, still on the porch, arms folded, smug as ever. She hadn't said a word yet. Didn't need to. She thought this was a victory lap. She finally stepped in, calm as you please, and shut the door behind her like she was settling in for tea. "I told you you'd regret this," she said, not even bothering to pretend she wasn't enjoying herself. "You think this little rebellion makes you noble? It just makes you look petty and unstable." "You needed a ride," I said. "Not a butler. You're a grown woman. You could have called a cab." Cody puffed up again, eyes darting around the living room like he was looking for something else to be offended by. "You have no idea how close I was to calling the police. Abandoning elderly people at the airport? That's not just cruel. That's a symptom of mental instability." I almost laughed at that one. Almost. "You think I'm unstable?" I asked, stepping toward him. "Buddy, I spent 5 years carrying your daughter and son-in-law on my back while you sat in your retirement castle judging people like me for working with our hands." Delia rolled her eyes. "Here we go." I paid their bills. I put that roof over their heads. "And the second I set a boundary, you show up in my house like you've got the moral high ground? Get real!" Catherine let out a sarcastic chuckle and looked around like she was disappointed in the furniture. "This is what bitterness does to a man. It rots him from the inside." "Lady, I've got receipts," I said, pointing toward the den. "But I'm not showing them to you. I don't owe you anything." Delia stepped in closer, expression tight now. That smirk was starting to slip. "This isn't about the money. It's about your attitude. You think you're owed something because you did what a father is supposed to do?" "No," I said. "I think I'm owed basic respect, which you all ran out of years ago." She snorted. "Please. You were always the backup plan, the silent partner. You're only useful when you're quiet." That one stung. I won't lie. But I didn't let it show. I looked at Cody. "You should get used to paying for your own rides." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Your vacation, your daughter, your mess. Figure it out yourself." From the hallway behind us, Haley's voice rang out loud and clear. "You all should be ashamed." Everyone turned. She stepped into the living room with her arms crossed, standing just tall enough to make her presence count. Cody opened his mouth, probably to bark something ugly, but Haley didn't give him the chance. "I watched him work late for months to make sure they didn't lose that house," she said, looking straight at Delia. "I saw the receipts. I counted the checks. You let him pay your way and called him a burden the second he asked for a seat at the table." Delia stiffened, but Haley wasn't done. "You've got no right to walk in here acting like he owes you anything. You all used him. And now that he's done, you're scrambling." Catherine's face went pale, but her voice came out steady. "Young lady, you don't understand the complexities of—" "I understand plenty," Haley snapped. "I understand entitlement when I see it." I'd never been prouder. Cody turned to me, one last gasp of control in his voice. "This isn't over." "Yes," I said, stepping back toward the front door. "It is." He didn't move. I said, "Get out of my house." They stood there for a second, stunned. Then, without a word, Catherine turned and walked out first. Cody followed, muttering something under his breath that I didn't bother catching. Delia lingered a second longer, glaring at me like I'd ruined some bigger plan. I didn't flinch. She stepped out and slammed the door behind her hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Silence fell. I let out a long breath and sat down on the couch. Haley sat next to me without saying anything. She just reached over, grabbed the remote, and flipped on the TV like it was a regular evening again. But something had shifted. The air felt lighter, and for the first time in a long time, the house felt like it belonged to us. 3 days later, I opened the front door and nearly tripped over the morning paper. I picked it up, didn't think much of it at first, until I saw my own damn face staring back at me in grainy grayscale on page 3. Headline read, "Spokane Man Abandons Elderly Couple During Holiday Storm." Storm? It had been 52 degrees and clear as glass that day. Not a cloud in the sky. But Cody must have told them he got snowed in at the terminal, probably threw in some dramatic shivering and a fake limp for effect. I sat down at the kitchen table, poured a cup of coffee, and read the whole thing. It was vicious. The reporter didn't just write it like gossip. They framed it like a mental health exposé. Hinted I might have had a breakdown. Threw in phrases like long-standing tension, worrying behavior, and erratic detachment. Cody, of course, had quotes all over it. "We were scared for him," he said. "This wasn't the man we knew. We just hope he gets the help he needs." Help? I didn't need help. I needed them to get the hell out of my life. No mention of the house payments. No mention of the kitchen I built with my bare hands. No quote from me, because no one had bothered to call. No reporter. No fact-checker. Just a hit job, top to bottom. I read it again. Slowly this time. Let the rage settle in layer by layer. By the time I finished the last paragraph, my coffee was cold. I stared at the mug, then at the page, then back at the front door like the paper might spontaneously combust if I willed it hard enough. I didn't say anything. Didn't call anyone. Just sat with it. Later that afternoon, I heard Haley typing away in the dining room. The steady rhythm of keys hitting hard and fast told me it wasn't homework. I walked over, leaned against the doorway. She was hunched over her laptop, face locked in that determined scowl she got when she was doing something she knew might cause waves. "You writing a novel?" I asked. She didn't look up. "You see the paper?" I saw it. She clicked something, took a breath, and then turned the screen toward me. "I didn't send everything," she said. "Just a summary, a few screenshots, one line in the email. Ask him about the last 5 years." I looked at the screen. She'd written a message to the same paper, attached photos of old bank statements, just the headers, not the amounts. A copy of the transfer schedule I'd printed out once for taxes. A blurry photo of the remodel receipts laid out on the kitchen table. Nothing too deep, just enough to raise questions. "You sent that to the paper?" "Yeah," she said, a little quieter now. "I didn't say I was your daughter. I just said, someone should look into why that man isn't at the dinner table." I pulled out the chair beside her and sat down. The screen glowed between us, quiet and steady. She stared at the table, chewing the inside of her cheek like she thought she might have gone too far. "I figured," she said finally, "if they were going to lie in public, they should get a nudge toward the truth." I looked at her. She looked young again, just 16 with her messy bun and oversized sweatshirt, trying to fix something way too big for her shoulders. "That's a hell of a nudge," I said. She closed the laptop gently. "It's not everything. That's still yours to tell." That part landed, not just because she gave me the space, but because she knew it wasn't her story to hijack. I smiled, small but real. "You were always the smart one." She shrugged, trying not to smile. "Well, you raised me." We didn't say much after that, just sat there, side by side at the dining table, two people who'd been shoved out of a family they used to build things for. That night, I pulled the article out again and read it one last time. This time I marked it up, red pen in hand, just like I used to do when reviewing bids from contractors or fixing bad plans from junior guys who thought they knew better. I circled every lie, underlined every misleading quote. In the margins, I wrote things like, "Lie, context missing, ask me next time." It wasn't for anyone else, just for me, just to keep the record straight in my own damn house. The next morning, the paper hadn't replied to Haley's email. I hadn't expected them to. I knew how these things worked. They'd move on, cover a dog show next week like nothing happened. But we'd planted a seed, one they couldn't unread. Around noon, I stopped by the hardware store to grab a few things. Paint samples, a new latch for the backyard gate. Felt good to be doing something normal again. But I noticed it. The sideways glance from the cashier. The slight pause when I handed over my card. The look that said they'd seen my face somewhere recently and couldn't quite decide what to believe. This was going to stick for a while. Later that evening, Haley came in from school and dropped her bag on the floor like usual, but she hesitated before heading to her room. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, "but I'm guessing this isn't over." She nodded. "They'll twist it. They always do." "I'm ready for that." She tilted her head. "You gonna tell your side?" "I will," I said, "when I'm good and ready." She smiled, then added, "Make it loud." I nodded. "Loud enough they don't forget it." Christmas Eve, around 6:45 p.m., I pulled up to their place in South Hill. Big two-story home, rental sign long gone, string lights blinking polite little lies along the roof. The driveway was full, street lined with sedans and SUVs, everyone polished like they were expecting someone important. I got out and grabbed my briefcase from the passenger seat. Leather, beat up, the same one I'd used for bids and permit packets when I still gave a damn about keeping the peace. This time it wasn't holding blueprints. I walked up to the door, didn't knock, just turned the knob and stepped inside. Unlocked, like always, still pretending they didn't have anything to hide. The house was warm, louder than I expected. 12 people packed around a long dining table that I paid for. Candles burning. Roasted ham in the center. Wine glasses raised. Laughter. Forks tapping china. Until they saw me. The entire room froze. Catherine's hand stalled midair, a fork full of potatoes just dangling. Cody's mouth hung open like someone had unplugged him. Delia sat near the middle of the table, in some red dress that probably cost more than my week's grocery bill, holding a wine glass and smiling like she hadn't just watched her world tilt sideways. Travis was at the end of the table. His eyes landed on me and stayed there. I walked in, slow, calm, just like I'd rehearsed. Set the briefcase down on the sideboard. Flipped it open. Nobody spoke. I pulled out the first stack. Manila folders, each one labeled. I didn't look up as I handed them out. Just walked the length of the table like a waiter in church clothes, setting a folder in front of every guest. Some people tried not to take one. Didn't matter. I made sure they did. Inside was everything. Itemized breakdowns of 5 years' worth of support. Mortgage payments, down payment, appliance receipts, texts asking for help, photos of the kitchen mid-remodel, signed checks, Venmo screenshots, printouts of Travis's thank you emails. The wedding invoice I'd covered, start to finish. And then, in every folder, at the bottom, one copy of the article from the paper, the headline highlighted, and my red ink notes scribbled in the margins. Lie. Manipulated. Context missing. Ask Delia who paid for their granite countertops. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Just the sound of pages turning, guests flipping through the folders like they were part of a jury they didn't ask to be on. Someone near the far end whispered, "Jesus." Another man said, "Wait, I thought..." Catherine stood up, voice shaky. This is completely inappropriate." I turned to her. "You're right. You should have had this before you quoted your husband to the press." Cody was red in the face, shaking. "You think this makes you look good? Storming in like a lunatic on Christmas Eve?" "No," I said. "This makes me honest and done." Delia hadn't moved, just watched, glass in hand, the smile gone now. She looked tight, like someone had screwed her into that chair and she couldn't find the handle to get loose. A woman 2 seats down leaned toward her and whispered something. Delia didn't answer. I saw the shift happening in real time, the way eyes moved from me to her, the way posture changed. People who'd shown up to drink her wine and nod at her stories now flipping through proof that everything she'd fed them was garbage. Cody slammed his hand on the table. "Get out." I walked over to the end of the table where Travis sat. He hadn't opened the folder yet. Just stared at it like it might burn his hands. I leaned in. Quiet. "I didn't do this to embarrass you," I said, "but I'm not letting her rewrite history in front of people who never saw what I gave up." He didn't respond. Behind me, Catherine was trying to save the room, telling people not to read into it, that I was dealing with things, that I was emotional. I ignored her. I reached into the briefcase one last time and pulled out a small envelope. Walked back to the center of the table, past Delia, past all the looks, and placed it right beside the ham platter. Inside was a single check. $1, signed, "For your future." That was it. I turned and walked out. No raised voice, no apology, no explanation. Just boots on hardwood, the door swinging open behind me, cold air rushing in to clear out the scent of all that fake civility. Outside, the street was quiet. No music, no yelling. Just muffled tension behind walls that suddenly didn't feel so soundproof. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps behind me. Haley. She'd come in late. I guess she hadn't wanted to make a scene walking into one. She caught up beside me, didn't say a word at first. Just slipped her hand onto my shoulder, firm and steady. "I'm with you, Dad," she said. That was all I needed. I opened the truck door and climbed in. Didn't even look back at the house. Didn't care what faces they were making now. Didn't care who cried, who denied, who tried to piece it all back together. They'd built their lives on borrowed money and borrowed truth. I just called in the debt. I started the engine. Haley climbed in on the passenger side. The heater kicked on. We drove home. March rolled in with leftover snow on the lawns and a thick envelope in my mailbox. I almost tossed it. Looked like some mortgage junk mail, not addressed to me by name. But something about the paper, the weight of it, made me open it. Foreclosure notice. Wrong name, right house. Travis and Delia's place. 3 missed payments. Total past due, $9,150. I stood in the kitchen holding it like a dead bird. Walked inside and slid it across the table toward Haley, who was eating cereal straight out of the box, no milk. She picked it up and read it out loud, slow and flat. Then she set it down and said, "Guess the house of cards collapsed." I didn't smile. Not because they didn't deserve it. I'd be lying if I said it didn't give me a bitter sliver of satisfaction. But I knew better than to celebrate. This wasn't the kind of story that ended in clean wins. This was going to keep spreading, rot and all. Within a week, 2 longtime clients pulled their remodeling contracts. One called and said they were reassessing budgets. The other just stopped replying. I called twice, got nothing back. The third one, a guy I'd built 2 houses for over the years, called me directly. "We're going in a different direction," he said. "It's not personal, Dennis. Just timing." Timing, my ass. These were people I'd worked with for years. Now they were scattering like roaches under the light. I tried not to let it rattle me. Thought maybe it was just a rough patch. Maybe the economy. Then I stopped by the lumberyard to grab some joist hangers, and the guy at the register, Mark, I'd known him since 2006, barely met my eye. "You still need that delivery on Friday?" he asked. I nodded. He hesitated. "I'll check if we've got it, but we're pretty booked up." I stared at him. "You've never been booked up on a Friday." He looked away, scratched behind his ear, then finally leaned in a little. "Dennis, Cody Jenkins has been making calls." I didn't blink, just let him talk. "He's been telling folks you've dropped jobs, missed deadlines, said maybe you're struggling with medication, implied there's some cognitive issues." That one landed like a punch to the gut. Not because it was new, because it was smart. I stood there in the checkout line, hands in my jacket, silent. I didn't argue, didn't defend, just nodded like I'd heard the weather report. Mark looked uncomfortable. I didn't say I believe it, but people listened to him, especially around here. It wasn't about mental health this time. It wasn't about character. It was business. Cody was tightening the screws where it hurt. He wasn't trying to humiliate me. He was trying to erase me. No headlines this time. No smear articles. Just a slow choke. Vendors getting cagey, suppliers dragging their feet, contracts drying up without warning. Not a blacklist on paper, but something worse. A whisper network. And in a town like Spokane, reputation traveled faster than facts. I didn't even need to tell Haley. She noticed it before I did. That evening, she came in from school and dropped her backpack by the table. "You lost Cooper?" "Yeah," I said. "And the Pickens job. Canceled yesterday." She didn't flinch, just leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "He's not smearing your name anymore," she said. "He's making it impossible for you to earn it back." She was right. Cody had flipped the strategy. He wasn't yelling about my failures. He was planting doubt, quiet, subtle, polite, a much cleaner weapon. No mess, no fingerprints. The kind of attack that never makes headlines, just ruins calendars and credit scores. I poured a whiskey and didn't say anything. Haley watched me for a second, then said, "You gonna fight back?" "I wasn't planning to ask for a fair fight," I said. "I'm just getting started." She nodded once, then left me to it. Later that night, I opened the file on my computer labeled Travis-House. Inside were scans of every agreement, every signed transfer, every favor I'd never made public. Not to embarrass him, just to protect myself. Because I knew, even years ago, that if things ever turned sour, facts were going to matter more than feelings. Cody thought he could corner me into silence with a slow freeze. He forgot who taught Delia how to weaponize money in the first place. He forgot who built every beam in that house with a nail gun and a sore back. He forgot I wasn't afraid of being alone, but he was going to remember. And next time, it wouldn't be quiet. It was Thursday evening when I heard the knock. 3 soft raps, hesitant, like the person on the other side wasn't sure they had the right house. I opened the door and found Travis standing there alone. No Delia. He looked wrecked. Not messy, not drunk, just worn down in that quiet, hopeless way you only get when the world stops pretending it owes you anything. His suit was wrinkled, tie shoved into his pocket, top button undone like he'd started the day trying to look presentable and gave up halfway through. "Hey," he said. I stepped aside and let him in. He paused like he was waiting for permission, then crossed the threshold and sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped between his knees like he didn't know if he was allowed to get comfortable anymore. I didn't offer him a drink, didn't sit down yet, just leaned against the wall and waited. He looked up at me. "Dad." I didn't know about the newspaper story, not until after it ran. I swear I didn't react. He kept going. But worse, I didn't know about the credit card stuff. Haley showed me the statements. Delia was using your money, personal charges, her health insurance, Hair appointments, even stuff for the dog. For almost a year. His voice cracked on that last part. He looked down at the floor like he was ashamed to breathe near my furniture. I lived off you, he said, and I let them turn me against you. I didn't yell, didn't throw him out, just nodded once, slow and steady. You didn't lose me, I said. You gave me away. Big difference. He flinched like I'd slapped him, but he didn't deny it, just nodded back. I know. He looked like he was trying not to cry, blinking hard and breathing through his nose. Then he cleared his throat and said, I'm trying to fix it. I waited. I got a job at a warehouse, packing, loading. Not glamorous, but it's honest. Pays enough for rent and gas. He rubbed his hands together, nervous again. And I've been helping out at this support group for struggling dads, guys who are trying to stay in their kids' lives. A lot of them are worse off than I am. Felt right to do something useful for once. That one caught me off guard. I blinked, took a slow breath. I'd expected excuses, maybe apologies, but not that. Just then, Haley walked in from the hallway, hair in a messy bun, holding a water bottle. She spotted him on the couch and arched an eyebrow. Travis sat up straighter, almost like he was nervous of her now too. Haley smirked and said, He's even teaching them how not to screw things up. He chuckled, embarrassed. Working title, Don't Be That Guy. That got a smile out of me. Not big, but real. Haley walked over and handed me the water bottle like she didn't want to interrupt but wanted to be part of the room. She sat in the chair across from Travis and studied him the way she studied for finals, quiet, analytical, skeptical. You actually showing up? She asked. Or is this just a guilt tour? Travis met her stare. I'm showing up. She didn't nod, didn't offer a welcome mat, just said, We'll see. Then she leaned back in the chair and pulled her knees up to her chest like she was staying put, no matter what came next. I finally sat down. Travis looked between the two of us. His eyes were tired, but he wasn't looking for pity. He was looking for permission to try again. That was new. I know I can't undo everything, he said, but I'm not going to keep pretending like it didn't happen. I folded my arms. You still in touch with her? He hesitated. We separated over the summer. She moved out. No formal papers yet, but it's over. I nodded slowly. Good. Travis looked at the floor. I let it all go too far. I thought keeping the peace meant staying quiet, but all I really did was back away and let you take the hits. I didn't argue. He was right. Haley stood up, stretched, and gave him one last look. If you screw it up again, I'm not helping you fix it. Travis nodded. Fair. She walked past and headed to the kitchen. Over her shoulder, she added, Dinner's in the fridge. You're eating with us or not? He looked over at me. I gave him a nod. Grab a plate, I said. You're not a guest. You're family. If you want to earn it back, start with the dishes. Thanksgiving came around again, 1 year later, and the house smelled like smoked turkey, sage stuffing, and real peace for once. Haley was in the kitchen, setting the table like she'd been doing it her whole life. No fuss, no eye-rolling, just focused. She had jazz playing low in the background, Travis's pick. Something about saxophones and roasted vegetables apparently went hand in hand. Travis was out back with the grill lid open, flipping skewers of zucchini and red bell peppers. His idea. Said not everything had to come from the oven. Delia wasn't around. They'd separated over the summer, and by fall she'd stopped texting. No updates, no drama, just quiet. Honestly, it was the best gift she'd ever given us. Inside, things felt light, not fake light, not the kind you put on to survive a dinner. It was the kind of calm you only feel when no one's pretending anymore. Travis came in through the sliding door, cheeks pink from the cold, holding a pie in a foil tray. I baked it, he said, grinning like a kid showing off his first science project. From scratch. Even made the crust. It was burned around the edges, blackened really, but he held it with both hands like it was gold. Haley leaned in. "It smells edible." "Thank you," he said proudly. We ate around 5. No speeches, no passive-aggressive comments, just passing plates and telling old stories. I let Haley carve the turkey. Travis brought out some weird cranberry chutney he found online. I didn't like it. Told him so. He laughed and said, "Good, more for me." After dinner we moved to the back porch with mugs of coffee. The air had that late November chill, but we didn't mind. I'd thrown a few logs in the fire pit, and the glow made everything feel softer somehow. Haley disappeared for a second and came back with the old photo album Maria kept in the closet. It was a thick brown thing, leather cover worn from years of handling. She set it between us and opened to the middle. Travis started flipping through the pages, pausing at pictures of him as a kid in Halloween costumes, family road trips, and then, Maria. There she was, holding him at a school play, sitting in the kitchen, icing cupcakes with Haley, laughing in the yard, sun in her hair. He stared at one picture longer than the rest. It was her holding a dish towel, caught mid-laugh, next to our old stove. She would have loved this, he said quietly. I didn't say anything, just nodded. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small frame wrapped in tissue. He unwrapped it and handed it to me. The $1 check. Framed neatly, same red ink from the note still visible on the corner. "Still the most expensive lesson of my life," he said. Haley grinned from her chair. "And now he teaches other guys how not to be idiots." Travis chuckled. "Got certified last month. Volunteer counselor now. There's a group that meets out on Division Street. Dads trying to stay connected even after they mess up." He glanced at me, a little nervous. "Trying to help other guys earn their way back." I raised my coffee mug and tapped it against his. "That's how you do it." This time, he didn't shrug or deflect. He just smiled. No defensiveness. Just thanks. Inside, the lights from the kitchen glowed warm across the floor. On the mantel above the fireplace, 2 photos sat side by side, one of Maria and one of the 3 of us taken last month at the park. That night, the house didn't feel heavy, didn't feel haunted or hollow or bitter. It felt like home again. Would you forgive your son if he stood by while others tore you down? Drop your answer in the comments. If this story got you thinking, tap like, subscribe to the channel, and share your take in the comments.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.